How can creators like us, who are new to building online businesses, who have high value skill sets, how do we scale our monthly recurring revenue, or MRR, to get us the freedom we desire? That is the question, and this newsletter will give you the answers. Be sure to subscribe if these are the types of answers you seek. My name is Boise Gordon, and welcome to episode 30 of Boise Talks Business. Episode 30: How to approach cold outreach if you hate sales. A conversation on the outreach strategy I use to avoid uncomfortable interactions. Welcome, everybody. I'm not retaking this. I'll leave the blip in there. But in the last episode, I discussed the most optimal mindset for entrepreneurial success. And it's a mindset where both your wins and losses reward you. And if you can get your mind to focus on the lessons in your losses and the lessons in your wins, you'll always gain something of value from either situation. If you wanted to know more about that, definitely check out last episode. I go into a little bit of detail about my logic and my philosophy on the entrepreneurial mindset. I think most people call it the growth mindset, but for those of you who are interested, just check out episode 29. And today, I want to discuss something that in my career as a sales manager has always been a problem, and that is cold outreach, or sales in general. To be honest, it's always something. It's a fight to get people to see it the right way, just because of how it's portrayed in our society. So once again, I wanted to talk about cold outreach and my method for making it a more comfortable experience. I also share like a framework that I use, just 3 steps to getting people from cold to a customer. So we'll go through that today. Let's dive in here. So think of SaaS. In most areas of the professional world, SaaS, or SaaS, means software as a service. You can look at Microsoft Office, that's SaaS, Adobe Photoshop, or any Adobe product like Acrobat. I know most people probably use that one. That is a service. Microsoft Paint, that is a service. McAfee Antivirus, that is a software as a service. So anytime where you're going to be using a software to perform an action on your computer, that is generally going to be software as a service where you're paying monthly for it. But for the sake of making this fun, for us, we will say SaaS to mean sales as a service. I've trained and been responsible for the results of many salespeople, and over 80% of them hated the thought of sales. Just like most people, they saw sales as manipulation, as cheating, as stealing, and they thought of salesmen as the scum of the earth, right? And, much portrayal of sales on TV and in movies is that exact thing. It's some sleazy guy who doesn't care about you, who just wants your money, wants you to buy whatever product. If it's a car, that car is probably a lemon, and it's not going to work in a month. Or, if it's a computer, the keys will start breaking off. Whatever it is that they're selling, they just always paint it as someone who is trying to rip you off, right? So how did I get them selling like the best salespeople to ever exist? I told them about SaaS, or sales as a service, right? Most of them saw sales as an unfair transaction where one side loses. And I think most people see sales that way. Like if I have to tell them about this thing and they didn't come about it, with their own efforts, then I'm manipulating them. And there's this whole imposter syndrome where you're an entrepreneur with an offer, and any offer you make seems unfair, which is why a lot of people prefer to work for free in the beginning, which doesn't make sense. But in general, the thought that sales is an unfair transaction doesn't make sense. No one in their right mind is going to purposefully buy something that isn't worth it. No one, right? So it's not sales that makes it unfair. It's the deceit behind the sale that makes it unfair. And I think you have to look at the person who is performing the action of sales to really know if it is a lie, if it is manipulation, if it is, something that is unfair, right? So here is sales as a service. And for those of you who want a more, not detailed, but just to have something concrete that you can look over, definitely check out the boisetalks.com website. That should have episode 30 on there as a newsletter. I already wrote everything down, so you can refer back to it if you like. But the first things you want to know, what you are offering must be worth the final amount. You can't rip people off. Even if it's like an internal or an intrinsic pricing, right? Like when we sell ourselves, or like, if you're doing business consulting or life coaching or like any service where you are offering your expertise, you can't feel like the amount of money that you're charging for your stuff isn't worth the product. And for some people, that is a little bit of internal work that they're going to have to do to get over that, because you can't work for free, or at least it's not advised that you work for free, right? And you have to put value on yourself and what you're offering. So, just make sure, like, in your head, you actually believe, and you're not lying to yourself, that what you are offering is worth the amount that you're charging, right? The second thing is going to be, the goal when selling must be to inform, not to convince. Most people think of sales as convincing, right? And don't get me wrong, like there is a little bit of convincing in the sales process, but the goal shouldn't be to change someone's mind on something they already think. It should be to give someone who is interested the information they need to make a decision. And hopefully that decision is a yes, right? Which is why a big part of sales is the qualification process, making sure that who you're talking to is a person that's a good candidate for the product, right? Because you're not trying to get someone who, isn't a good fit to buy your stuff. That wouldn't make any sense. They're not going to have a good experience, and you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So you're not trying to convince. You're just trying to inform, right? And the last thing is, when you are selling, you must be honest about everything. At no point in the sales process should you feel like you're lying to anybody. Like, if you don't have a perfect system, don't call it a perfect system. If your system only works in certain use cases, tell them that it only works in certain use cases. Or if you haven't tried it out, you can say, hey, I did it here and it worked here. I have not done it for you, but my guess, give your expertise. Or I believe, right? And tell them what you believe. Give them your opinion. But don't sell your opinion as fact to try to convince them to buy from you, right? And if you're doing those three things, like, you shouldn't have to worry about the feeling that sales is an icky thing, because at that point, it's worth it. That you're just giving them information, and you're being honest. And that way, when you get to the selling part, you don't have to sell. You can just offer being the keyword, a high quality service or product, right? So that's kind of like the framework, the things that I work on when I'm with new people. When it comes to sales, it's like I try to get them to change their offer or change what they're selling, or package it in a way that's not bad, right? Because bad packaging means that it's going to be undervalued. And if it's a really good service, then it's just a matter of making sure that it's articulated in what you're saying. And then, teaching people how to correctly inform potential leads and prospects of their service, to make sure that, they're giving them everything that they'd actually want to know about what it is they're offering. All right. And then here's the cold outreach technique. I've been using this for years, and I don't think it's going to ever change, to be honest. I can go a little more in detail. For each thing has its own list of criteria, but for the sake of simplicity, I will share with you the three-part system that I use. Now that we have our mindsets in the right place, and we know that we're being fair and honest, and we're not ripping anyone off, we're doing sales as a service, meaning we're giving back to people, even when we are, they're not buying, they're still gaining something of value, right? We can start to work on our outreach process. Now, outreach isn't necessarily the most efficient method of client acquisition. In fact, it's probably the least efficient method, right? If you have to reach out, that means that there wasn't any interest prior to you saying anything. And for some people, there might already have been interest, like if it's a warm a warm lead. They might know you exist, but not reach out yet, right? And you reaching out could be that thing to get it over the hump. But they're already aware of you. Cold outreach means they don't even know you exist prior to you saying anything. So that's why it's like the least converted method of outreach, because you don't have the proof that they are a qualified candidate right away. But I will say this: if you have the ability to do cold outreach, it requires almost no leg work to set up. Like, you can do it from day one, no matter how small or how big you are. And you'll be able to sell your offer in any climate, right? If it's a poor economy, you can sell in a poor economy with cold outreach. In a competitive market, you can stand out above that market with competitive cold outreach, right? And if you're a brand new company, you can still have cold outreach, even though your other channels of sales and customer acquisition haven't been set up, right? So I'll break down my 3-part system here. So first part of the system is going to be the introduction. The intro is the most important part of any outreach mechanism, because if you fail your introduction, you will have a horrible first impression and no one's going to want to listen to you. The good news is that an introduction is fairly easy, and it only requires one rule pretty much. And that one and only rule, please do not break this rule in your introductions. The rule is, don't sell. Never sell in an introduction. The first words, the second words, the 10th words, the 50th words out of your mouth should not be about you, your service, what you're offering, and who you're offering it to, and they should buy from you. Like, that's where a lot of people get cold outreach messed up, because they're trying to convert with the least amount of effort possible. Well, if you think about it, cold outreach has a low conversion for a reason. And that is probably why people want to go from cold to close in one sentence. And you can't do that. You have to warm them up, meaning you have to educate them about, your company, or at least make them aware of who you are and what you do. Not buy from me, right? So don't sell. An introduction is not for you to blast a spiel about your product. In fact, the longer you hold out on making a sale, the better. You'll actually have more conversion that way. The point here is to just start a conversation and begin a relationship. A simple hi, how are you doing, goes a long way. On a phone call, like a cold call, generally those move a little faster in terms of like the sales process. So it is very possible to go from cold to warm to close in that one conversation. But for most outreach channels, if you're talking about emailing or DMing, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get to that point. So it would help to have a strategy where you're breaking up these into different parts and only moving forward once you feel like you have enough to go forward, right? So once you're done with your introduction, just letting them know who you are, getting to know who they are, building a relationship, finding some common ground and rapport. Then you move on to pain points. This is the second thing. Identification of pain points is the equivalent of an open book test. It is virtually impossible to fail once you do it. They're giving you the answers to the test. Like, they're literally telling you exactly what you need to sell them on when it's time to sell. Pain points are going to be areas where a prospect will have problems in their business. So, for instance, a barber might hate the cost of oils, right? That would be a good pain point if you are a discount barbershop supply company, right? A business consultant may suck at social media. That's really good if you're specializing in social media marketing and you want to get new clients. Now you know that they are not good at it, right? A lab scientist may be overworked and stressed out. This may be a really good pain point for a travel agency, right? Or a massage parlor, right? Like that, the pain point has to match up with the solution you're providing, right? So that's the type of pain points you want to try to discover. And the goal here is to simply focus the conversation on discussing pain points, which are just problems you can solve. The biggest thing to note here is the power of curiosity and empathy, right? Like the key is also the same rule as the last section, and that's don't sell. Never sell. When they tell you their problems, they don't want to hear about a solution. Most people don't want to hear about a solution. If you've ever had a partner, this is for men out there. If you've ever had a girlfriend or a wife or anybody like that, right? And they're complaining about a problem. Have you ever just told them the solution? What happens? What happens every time a man tells a woman the solution to their problem? They get upset. They get upset. Happens to me all the time. That's because people don't want the solution. They want to be heard. They want to feel like you understand what they're saying. So it's not until after they feel like you understand what they're saying that they will be open to hearing what you have to say. But you gotta give before you can take, right? So just like that, when people are talking about their pain points, you don't want to just jump into, oh, well, I have a solution and da 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 da. Like, no, they just started talking about their pain. Ask questions. How does that make you feel? Like, how long have you been dealing with that? What have you tried to do to get rid of the problem already, right? How did that experience go? Like, and that's just one problem. Then you can ask, was there any other problems that you were having? Or like, did you see any other issues that, might be similar to this one? You can keep asking as long as you want. And as long as they're willing to talk to you, that means that they're open to having a conversation. And that is also a form of rapport building. You're building trust. And if you have a quick fix to their problem, I mean, you can sprinkle it in there, but only after you've already shown them that you understand and have heard them, right? And it's not time for you to offer your solution. Like I said, it's literally the fix. So if you can give them the answers to the test, give them the answers to the test, as long as it's not going to take away from your ability to make an impact with your offer. So don't give them a part of your offer as the solution to the pain point. So, like I said, do this until you feel like you've identified the largest problems, specifically the problems that you can solve with your offer. And then the last step is offer the solution. This is the only part where selling is okay, but it is not a conventional sale. Like I said, the only thing you have to do here is recap the pain points you can help with. If they had some situation happen, recap the situation, pretty much summarize what the pain points part of the conversation was about. And then let them know your solution to their pain. Like, I actually have something that can help you. I actually help people in a similar position as you, right? Make sure there's empathy there. And this isn't where you say whatever you can to convince them. This is just you telling them about what you do. And then you wait for an answer. If it's no, ask about their concern. Like, no, I don't want to work with you. Okay, like, was there a specific reason? Was there something I didn't touch on? Like, whatever that is, right? That's an objection. Most people will have an objections. Objections are usually on three things: price, they're not the decision maker, or they're confused. And if it's price, your offer isn't valuable enough to them, right? If it's they're not the decision maker, well, you're selling to the wrong person. And if they're confused, then it's probably time to explain. If they have time, offer a meeting. It doesn't really matter. The goal is to find the problem, give them a solution. And then if it's yes, you have yourself a client. Like, you have another client, which is awesome. Congrats. Right? A few final notes. I didn't note everything here because I didn't want it to get too complicated. But I did list out, especially in the newsletter, some of the rules or like some of the necessities or prerequisites to making this all work. So, first things first, you need to prioritize the needs of your prospect every time, at all times. Their needs matter way more than yours, right? Don't get me wrong, like, some of us are desperate. We want money, we want it now, but that can't overshadow your ability to listen actively and actually have a conversation, right? Second thing, you need to have an awesome offer. As in, the offer that you provide has to be an obvious yes. It has to be something that people feel bad about saying no to. All right. And then third thing, you need to know your ICP and the best way to speak to them. Every single person's ICP or ideal customer persona is going to have a separate way where they prefer to be communicated with. Right. So if you know your ICP and you've already empathized with them, you've already created the content that speaks to them, all that good stuff, right? Then you'll have a way easier time forming a conversation because you've already formed plenty of conversations through your content. And you'll already know kind of the pain points that are going to arise when you start getting into the pain points, through your outreach. And then the last thing, the fourth thing, you need to be patient and give the process a fair chance before quitting. You can't start something and quit a month later. Like, it's just not going to work. Especially when it comes to outreach, you have to think about the percentages. Like, when it comes to cold outreach, 5% success is an awesome number. Think about that. Like, out of 100 people, if 5 people say yes to you, you're probably like an expert salesman, right? Like, 2% is the average, meaning 98% of the people you call will say no. 98% of the people you reach out to will say no, or they won't be a good fit. 2% will be, right? So that's why it's not too efficient because of the percentages being so low, but it's definitely a way to apply action to your sales funnel, especially if you're trying other methods that are going to take a little longer to turn into something. So, and then the last thing, I guess that's not the last thing. The last thing is that you can split this process up into multiple days. Like, the key to cold conversions is turning people from cold to warm, meaning if you call them the second time or you reach out to them the second time, they know who you are, they have some rapport with you, and y'all can chat it up like y'all are friends. And you don't have to go through the process of, why are you calling me, dude? You've already answered that. So then you call again, they already know who you are and why you're calling, right? So most people think that they have to close on the first interaction, but that's almost never going to happen. Matter of fact, 98% of the time, it is not going to happen. So the key here is just follow up and keep warming the lead and getting it to a place where you can, finally make that push to have the offer, or a meeting or whatever you're going for, and get them converted, right? I personally just stick with an organic approach. I don't ever push too hard or push too little. I'm just, testing the waters. If people are more open to talking about their pain, I'll transition. If people are more open to meeting with me, I'll transition. If they want to stay in the introduction phase, or if they're not interested, I don't really make it a point to continue to push for the meeting. It's just a matter of reading the room. So the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. It's just a matter of sticking it out. Cool. All right. Well, if you'd like to learn these techniques directly from me, I do have some slots opening up in May. Not sure how many, but stay tuned for more info if you're interested. And if you like this content and you feel like you learned something from it, feel free to let me know. Looking for feedback. It goes a long way. It lets me know exactly what I need to talk about more, so that you guys can keep getting value from this. Oh man, this was long. 23 minutes. Sheesh. Sorry guys, but I hope that it was a good episode for you, and you can actually do something with the info. Enjoy the rest of your day. Happy Monday, and see y'all Wednesday. Peace.